Previously on Legends of Aelos, the party travels through the serene winter-kissed forest, Rowan leading them along the winding hinterland trails until, eventually, they finally arrive at their destination, Rowan's family home on the outskirts of Herondine. Rowan leads the group around to the back, where they tie off their steeds, as Rowan makes his way towards the front door to see who is home, considering his father is likely still at work this time of the evening. Soon after knocking, Rowan is greeted by his mother, Ella, along with all the warmth and familiarity one would expect of a homecoming after being gone for several years. It doesn't take long, of course, for Rowan to introduce the latest extension of his family, taking the time to introduce each member of the party individually, to which Ella welcomes them all with a beaming smile. The group settles in, and she tells them that the others shouldn't be too long in their arrival, as the party takes in the deliciously fragrant scents wafting from Ella's baking. She tells them she made them as a special thank you for the three brothers they've been accommodating, but there's plenty to go around for all, though living space will be a bit less accommodating. At this, Rowan realizes that considering the balance ratio, Aurelia and Briar might be best accommodated in his room, while he stays in the main room downstairs with the others. The notion of Martison not getting to sleep in a bedroom elicits a not-so-subtle tone of disappointment in his acquiescence to sleeping downstairs with the rest. Rowan and his mother catch up, while Asher and Karun head out to start moving the horses into the barn. As they chat, Briar and Aurelia enter, with the former asking Ella about procuring something a bit warmer to better accommodate the climate change. Ella says she can certainly come up with some garments, along with drawing a bath for the ladies, before the gentlemen take theirs, of course. The notion of their bath being private, flustering both of them a fair bit. While the ladies talk, Rowan heads out to make sure that Karun and Asher were all settled with getting the horses stabled properly. As they all finish up and begin to head back inside, Karun and Asher encourage Rowan to go see his beloved Evelyn, with Asher even suggesting he take advantage of his shape-shifting talents to assist in getting him there expeditiously. Still, Rowan says that it's probably best not as late as it is, and they continue to make their way into the back storeroom entrance. However, coincidentally enough, it's at this very moment, the same time someone is entering through the front door, and as they walk into the main room, it is there that Elvie sets her eyes upon someone she did not expect to see when she made the evening trek up to the house. She pauses for but a moment at the door before rushing into the arms of Rowan. They embrace each other as one would expect for two amorous people who have been separated for many moons. After a moment, Rowan begins the customary introductions of the three male companions present to his girlfriend, Martison, addressing her with a candor that still manages to be bombastic in what is oddly a familiar disposition for the bard. Eventually, Aurelia and Briar come down, and with everyone currently on the homestead present, Ella and Rowan see to fetching and dispensing spirits and wine as they settle in and await the return of Rowan's father and the other guests. As they sit and drink, the party takes notice of what's in store for dinner, as Ella removes a large boar roast to start carving in preparation for the meal. It doesn't take long for night to settle in, and as figures are noticed tending to animals at the barn, the front door opens, and in walks the stout and grizzled Falson, Rowan's father. He eyes his son and goes to greet him, disregarding house rules in the process as he plods over still in his long boots, before being introduced to the rest of Rowan's companions. He admires the strides Rowan's made in growth and maturity, to which Rowan retorts that his old man is still just as strong as ever. Falson laughs that regardless of however capable either of them might be, the three brothers still outside are certainly more than a sight to behold, comparatively speaking. It's not long after their mention that the last three visitors to the home enter through the back door, they making a point to respect the house rules. Even as they are bent down, undoing their boots, it is apparent to all that the three are half-orcs of substantial size, but it is made irrefutable when they enter the main room proper, one brother towering a foot taller than the other two, all to the point that they must accommodate their stances just to stand within the homestead, a residence which, to mention, is not dimensionally smaller than a standard home would be. The brothers Cole, Elwyn, and Xander are introduced and introduce themselves, the twins exclaiming how Elwyn, the most gargantuan of them, was able to cleave 4 frost gnolls in twain with minimal effort. Elwyn admits he's developing a passion for the sport. As he meets Rowan's hand, Asher proceeds to shake the hand of Cole, the other of the 2 twins, after managing to stave off a reactionary grasp for his component pouch at the sight of these mountains of muscle. Cole then proceeds to tell of how they were fortunate enough to come into the hospitality of Rowan's parents at the insistence of Rowan's father, after the 3 of them saved him and Rowan's uncle Thodrak from a group of stalking frost gnolls that were encircling them. They continue to converse as they sit down to eat, but only after Elwyn is reminded that house rules include leaving large weapons along with boots at the door. Amongst the topics of conversation, the increase in gnoll presence is one that is discussed at length, the reasoning for their increase being of particular interest. There does not seem to be an immediate threat posed though, so they elect to take their time and gather more information about the frequency of attacks from other villagers, especially with the desire from Cole being to understand them, rather than just slaying and stopping them. Eventually, the topic of what brings the party to Rowan's hometown arises, to which they begin to regale the story from their meeting each other and banding together to where they are now, each step of their journey a talking point, wherein the mention of Hargar towards the end of their tale draws out a somber yet concerned reaction from Rowan's parents. After getting through the more current events, particularly what transpired at Kinghaven, Falson motions to Elvie, who talks on what she has gathered considering her proximity to the local Lord Regent, Jazir, via her father. Jazir and his consul determine that their focus is best spent on Herendine, and that the mindings and murmurs of the Central Kingdom are of no concern to them. Jazir had trained in Trevain, but when he left to return to Herendine, it appears that he brought back a soured opinion of the dealings and machinations of Count Basquin, and presumably by extension, the Kingdom of Men, via the Queen, his daughter. Staying on the topic of the Central Kingdom, Rowan brings up his father's reaction to Hargar's name, to which Falson states he did serve under Hargar, but was also betrayed and left for dead by him, a perplexing juxtaposition to the fact that it ultimately was Hargar that enabled them to escape the castle dungeon without incident. Eventually, the chalice is brought into the conversation, and Rowan produces it from the bag of holding, though both of his parents motion to move away from the topic, despite their dispositions towards it. After the meal and most of the group begins cleaning up, Rowan approaches his parents and presses the matter of the chalice, to which Ella states it's not the chalice, but what it is made of that struck them. They pull him away and speak with Rowan in secret. Falson informs Rowan that the metal is of the same ore as his sword, a sacred material to the Aelmine, the Sun Elves, Ella, and, by blood, Rowan's people. The metal of the chalice once formed the Sun Tablet, a relic stolen by Hargar after he murdered Ella's father, the king of the Aelmine at the time. In the void left by the death of Rowan's grandfather, Ella's scorned suitor, Kethriel, rose to power and turned the kingdom against Ella's family. It was by the effort and sacrifice of Lamiel, Ella's brother, that they were able to escape after he gave Ella and Falson the family sword, the same sword that Rowan carries upon his back. The last thing Ella impresses upon Rowan is that the Aelmine kingdom is not a safe place for their kin, that though they may not know of him now, there would be no question of hostility towards him were they to ever find out. Rowan informs his parents of the ravens, and how now there is a new desire to smelt the chalice back down and return it to the Sun Elves in hopes of restoring a sacred relic and a bond. But Ella states that the chalice is not enough, for the threat of what the sword he carries implies, a right to rule, would make Rowan nothing more than a target to be eliminated. Rowan leaves to return to the group, though Evelyn stops him for a moment to secure a kiss, her expression of love giving Rowan some peace and grounding him after the revelation he just heard, though they both compose themselves for the time being before they finally return downstairs. At this point, the cleaning for the evening's meal has been completed, and the half-orc brothers sit and converse with each other, discussing their plans for the near future. Cole still believes there is something to be discovered further beyond the borders of their tribe, though Elwyn states he has already grown leery and ever more weary of the world of men. Though it disheartens Cole to consider the fact that the three brothers would be splitting up, there is insight and wisdom in Elwyn's words that all must walk their own path under their own motivations. Xander, ever the least spoken of them, concurs that he still holds to his dream of seeing the unfrozen waters, regardless of if his brothers accompany him or not. With them set on their respective destinations, the three take the first steps in starting their own separate journeys. After this, the brothers set about making camp for themselves outside, considering the number of people residing in the house already now, and the fact that they are quite a bit more acclimated to the climate up here in the north. During this time, Cole makes conversation with Briar as she identifies items for the group, speaking of interest on Cole's spear, highlighting its electrical potential. Curious as to the scope of change that might occur, Briar has interest in her newfound friend and provides him a potion capable of increasing his size by a magnitude, and hopes that she will one day get to witness its results. He thanks her for it with an unintended pat on the head. Karun finds some time to transcribe an excerpt from one of the tomes that he had been reading during the evenings of their travel, and meanwhile, Rowan escorts Evelyn home. As they walk and talk, Rowan notices a torch along the road, to which he pulls her into the brush and down on top of him to hide, not sure of who might be approaching. She snickers at their position as they await for the guard to walk past, and considering that this is the first they have been able to hold one another in over 2 years, neither can resist their affection for each other, and both wind up returning to their respective homes a few hours later than initially intended. Brian and Aurelia spend a few fair awkward moments themselves up in Rowan's cozy room as the two slowly open up, Aurelia noticeably quite a bit more sheepish than how she was initially perceived by Briar, though a side she finds endearing. Furthering of the connection developing between them, though, is cut short, as a rap on the door brings a self-invited Martisan into the room. He proceeds to find himself a small spot on the floor and has the courtesy to cover his indecency, at the very least, if not the consideration to really think what either Aurelia or Briar would prefer happened at that very moment. In the morning, Briar attempts to put Martisan into the bed, considering they were no longer using it, though she immediately regrets this, as only Martisan is affected by the levitation and gravity takes a firm hold on the blanket. They then join the others, already in the process of waking and warming themselves with coffee. Cole speaks to Asher of the contest that is coming to town, the same event that will likely keep Elwyn around a little while longer, and, along with the others, they also speculate on the nature of the increasing Gnoll encounters. Another topic that arises is Xander's journey, to which the party offer up an opportunity to approach Bolt in joining his crew on the Chicken of the Sea, after Karun confirms with the captain himself, of course. Martisan eventually comes down, and Elvie comes to the house in the morning as well. Rowan opens the door to greet her, along with another individual, seemingly injured, though it is most certainly a ruse, as Rowan immediately recognizes the visage of the Black Raven. And it is from here we shall continue the story of the Legends of Aelos.